Good afternoon. I'm Pat Sadak, and I'm a constable with the Winnipeg Police Service's Public Information Office. I have one item to discuss with you today. Today I'm joined by Mayor of Winnipeg, Scott Gillingham, Winnipeg Chief of Police, Gene Bowers, Deputy Chief of Investigative Services, Cam McKidd, Divisional Commander of Major Crimes, Jen McKinnon, Chief of Winnipeg Fire and Paramedic Service, Christian Schmidt, and Chief Jason Federer, Fire Investigations Coordinator. Also in attendance today is Jay Kilgore, who is representing the Manitoba Restaurant and Food Services Association. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge that we are a Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwe, Innu Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation and Treaty 3 territory. I'd like to call upon Chief Bowers to make some opening remarks.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'm joined by Deputy Chief Cam McKidd and Inspector Jennifer McKinnon, who will provide some details about the investigation and significant arrests and charges that we are announcing today. I would like to acknowledge and thank Mayor Gillingham, Chief Schmidt for being here. Thank you both for your collaboration and continued support. A few weeks ago, or I believe 2 weeks to 3 weeks ago, the police and the fire came together to provide the community with an update on the work that we are doing across city departments to address the fires in our community, from prevention to investigation. It's only through these collaborative efforts that we are able to have an impact and move the dial to improve the safety and well-being of our community. Over the last year, fires and arsons have hit the headlines all too frequently. The incidents have caused a tremendous amount of concern, fear, and financial hardship to those who have been directly impacted. We know neighborhoods and the entire Winnipeg community have been affected. Winnipeg Police Service, along with the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service, have worked together with the community and business partners to address this serious issue. The ongoing collaboration and strong partnerships have been instrumental in getting us here today to announce the arrest of Mr. Wheatland. I am grateful for the work of all our partners and all our police members, from our comm center to our general patrol members, our respective arson and fire investigators, whose collective efforts have brought us here today. So with that, I will turn the podium over to Deputy Chief McKidd.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for being here today. We last spoke on, I believe it was 3 weeks ago. I think it was Halloween, October 31st. Many of you were here for that press conference. That's the last time we spoke about arsons. And at that time, there were a number of questions relating to specific fires and specific investigations, potential motives behind these fires, potential linkages between these different fires. And of course, there are many questions about any potential arrests on the horizon. A great deal of concern, obviously, with us at the podium here on that day, and with you, the media, and with the community. So we all share the concern and the fear that were being caused by these fires. As these were ongoing investigations, we were very limited on that day in what we could say. However, we did commit to reconvening here with you in the event that we were in a position to share further information with respect to these ongoing investigations. And that's exactly what we're doing here today. I can tell you that this morning, as a result of an ongoing investigation, a total of 22 criminal charges have been laid against Jesse Robert Sean Wheatland, 35 years old, a resident of Winnipeg. These charges relate to arson events that occurred, there's a total of 22 arson events that occurred to properties between June 11th of this year and November 18th of this year. These charges relate to a number of high-profile arson incidents involving restaurants and businesses in the downtown area and the Exchange District, as well as multiple incidents of arson and property damage occurring at the constituency offices our provincial MLAs, Nahani Fontaine and Bernadette Smith. In total, 11 separate locations were targeted over the course of this investigation, and obviously a number of these locations were attacked multiple times. As you can imagine, with this arrest today, there remains a considerable amount of work to be done in terms of investigative steps. And as always with matters that are before the courts, we're still going to be limited somewhat in what we can say here today. Having said that, with the laying of these charges this morning, we felt it was very important for us to report on this arrest to the media and to the community in the hopes of alleviating, at least to some degree, the well-placed fear and concern that has existed with our citizens and with our businesses and in the community, in the downtown area and beyond for the last 6 months as a result of these fires. It's not lost on us in policing that these intentionally set fires are not only dangerous to the community, but they also unnecessarily put our colleagues at the Winnipeg Paramedic Service into dangerous situations. As an organization, this weighs very heavily on us, as it does, I can assure you, with Chief Schmidt and Mayor Gillingham. I want to give credit to our members who conducted and contributed to this investigation. Internally, we put a lot of resources into this investigation. It was led by our arson investigators who work within the Major Crimes Unit, but it was heavily supported by members of our Guns and Gangs Unit, our Surveillance Unit, our Crime Analysis Unit, and to a very large extent, our General Patrol members, who invariably contribute to these long-term investigations. In fact, with respect to this investigation, it was work conducted by our General Patrol members that was simply invaluable and led us to where we are here today. So with that, we'll take questions later at the end of this, the end of our speakers here. But I'd like to introduce Inspector Jen McKidd. We've been, this investigation's been progressing throughout last night and into the morning, and the chief and myself and Inspector McKinnon, we all sort of play different roles as things are progressing. So, so we're sort of here by committee today to provide you with the most information, most up-to-date and accurate information we can. So with that, I'll introduce Inspector McKinnon.
Good afternoon, everyone. As you heard, I'm Inspector Jennifer McKinnon of our Major Crimes Division. Before I get started, I want to thank everyone for being here today. It feels like only yesterday that we were all gathered in this room together to speak on the ongoing collaboration and partnership between the Winnipeg Paramedic Service, the Winnipeg Police Service, and the City of Winnipeg. Over the summer, our community has faced a series of fires that has caused understandable fear, frustration, and concern. We wanted every resident and business owner to know that we heard you, we shared your concerns, and we were taking each and every one of these incidents very seriously. I cannot thank you enough for your patience. What I can say today is after a lengthy and extensive investigation, the Major Crimes Unit arrested 35-year-old Jesse Robert Sean Wheatland for the following offenses: arson with disregard for human life, arson causing damage to property times 13, mischief under 5,000 obstructing the enjoyment times 4, break and enter and commit arson times 2, and break and enter with intent times 2. These locations included the Commonwealth Kitchen and Bar, located at 450 Main Street, John E. G's in the Exchange District, the Exchange Event Center at 111 Princess Street, the Palomino Club at 436 Main Street, Bougie Restaurant at 191 Main Street, La Roca at 155 Smith Street, and Tipsy Cow at 285 Portage Avenue, as well as the offices of Minister Smith, Minister Fontaine, the Office of the Winnipeg School Division, and a provincial treatment center in the 100 block of Magnus Avenue. This investigation is still very much in progress, and we are in the process of connecting with all the impacted business owners. What I can tell you is we believe Wheatland was acting alone when he attended these locations, causing damage by breaking windows, lighting fires, and in some cases both. I'm not going to be getting into the specific details of each of these occurrences as it's pertaining to this ongoing investigation, and a future prosecution. At the end of October, I spoke to different series of arson investigations and want to be clear, this investigation is not related to any of the previously reported extortion investigations. Those continue to be actively investigated by our unit. It is also important for me to acknowledge everyone who contributed to this extensive work. The Major Crimes Unit is made up of designated arson investigators who work hand in hand with city departments and the Winnipeg Paramedic Service fire investigators to address suspicious fires and arsons throughout our city. The benefit of having these investigators embedded in the Major Crimes Unit allows for us to tap into further resources when needed, and that's exactly what this investigation required. I want to acknowledge not only the Winnipeg fire investigators for their work, but our arson team as well. The Major Crimes Unit sergeants and detectives who took on these investigations due to the sheer demand that this was having on our unit. The crime analysts that work closely with our investigators and our intelligence operation group who added additional layer of support throughout this investigation. The Guns and Gangs Unit who work closely with our investigative teams, and members in General Patrol who responded to these occurrences throughout the summer. I also want to include our Forensic Identification Unit members, and as well as our professional staff in our court unit. We couldn't have done it without them. I also can't forget Crime Stoppers for their continued support and dedication to public safety. Lastly, our public information officers who fielded the never-ending questions and frustrations of what police were actually doing, especially when I had little information to share with even them. I'm going to invite Chief Schmidt to come to the podium, and then I'll answer questions later.
Good afternoon. Christian Schmidt, Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service Chief. Winnipeg continues to experience high rates of fires, significantly higher than many comparable Canadian and North American cities. This situation requires us to act together, and that is why I'm pleased to hear about this arrest today. Arson investigations, as you've heard, are extremely complex, and after our firefighters complete their work on scene, the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service fire investigators step in to determine the cause and origin of the fire. From here, our WFPS fire investigators work closely with Winnipeg Police Service Major Crimes Unit investigators. I am so proud of our fire investigators and their work as part of this collective team. I'm also extremely grateful to the Winnipeg Police Service for their continued attention, focus, and teamwork on this very important issue for our city. I am committed, as are the remainder and all of members of Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service, to continuing to work closely with the Winnipeg Police Service and all of our stakeholders and community partners and on this very important issue for our community. I would also like to speak just briefly about our issues with vacant building fires in our city. This continues to be a major issue for us. I ask media also to help us amplify our messaging to the community. Insofar as anyone who sees someone actively entering a vacant building or removing boards from windows or doors from a vacant building, people need to call 911 in this situation and report the incident immediately. For any time that we notice boarded windows or doors that have been breached, but we do not see someone actively entering a building, we need to report this please to 311 so that the city can take appropriate enforcement measures to resecure that building. And finally, I also encourage the public continue to make reports to Crime Stoppers and community reporting phone lines such as the power lines in Point Douglas and William White neighborhoods. Together, our efforts will have collective impact on improving safety across Winnipeg. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Scott Gillingham, Mayor of the City of Winnipeg. I want to begin by thanking members of the Winnipeg Police Service and members of the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service for their excellent work on this case. We all stood here together less than 3 weeks ago to talk about how our police and fire services are working in a collaborative fashion. And I think you've heard the word collaboration or coordination multiple times from several of our speakers already. Working together closely on fire investigations. And today's announcement is exactly the kind of result that we're talking about. At that time, we heard that collaboration between police and fire investigators is stronger than it's ever been. And today we're seeing that partnership pay off once again. These incidents also have had a real impact on our business community, especially on local restaurants. When a restaurant is damaged or forced to close because of an arson, it affects, of course, the owners, the suppliers, the staff, and the customers. It disrupts livelihoods and shakes confidence in neighborhoods that depend upon these businesses. I'm very pleased that Jay Kilgore is here, representing the Manitoba Restaurant and Food Services Association, because his members have felt this directly. And I certainly want to let them know that we take this seriously. As you know, as you've heard, arson cases are often very complex. They can involve multiple sites, extensive evidence collection, and a great deal of forensic analysis. And these investigations take time. And while we all wish that things could have and could conclude more quickly, it's even more important that the investigations are done thoroughly and done right. This arrest reflects professionalism, persistence, and the collaboration of everyone involved. I want to thank every member of the Winnipeg Police Service who's had a part in this investigation and this arrest, and every member of the Winnipeg Fire Paramedic Service who's had a part to getting us to today, to this investigation and this arrest. And I want to thank the public for their patience. And I want to also finally assure Winnipeggers that our emergency services are working together to keep our city safe and to solve crimes and to continue to work in a collaborative manner for the strengthening of our entire community. Today's outcome shows what coordinated action can achieve, and this is progress, and we're going to keep building on it in the future days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Thank you.
We'll open it up for questions.
Why do police believe that Leland acted alone?
I was hoping you'd want to talk to our esteemed group here, but we can support it through evidence that we've collected. He's also been interviewed by investigators at length.
Did he admit to setting these fires?
He's been cooperating with our investigators.
Any insight into a motive or why he was setting the fires?
Yes, and unfortunately, it's not something I can share today because that's speaking directly to the investigation, which is currently still in progress.
Said that any exposure investigation.
Ruled out.
That's separate, that's separate. So
That's
you're ruling that out in this case, that this is not, he wasn't shaking these businesses.
Correct.
Can you speak to the involvement of the guns and gangs unit, why that unit was involved?
So as it was articulated by Deputy Chief McKidd, this was a long stemming investigation. It started in June 11th. We are limited in our resources. The Major Crimes Unit, when we're investigating this and the arson investigators, crime is still happening in Winnipeg, and we have to be able to respond to that as well. I'm the commander of that unit. I have to be very conscientious of the mental health and well-being of our members. And the Guns and Gangs unit is a unit that works really well with us on an investigation like this, but on other investigations. So having them to support our members is huge.
So was this suspect arrested shortly after setting a fire, allegedly, on Magnus Avenue? I noticed he's arrested in the 100 block of Magnus. There's a fire in the 100 block of Magnus.
That's correct.
At the scene or near the scene?
No, not at the scene.
Yeah. And was it general patrol in the
No.
location?
No, it was not.
How was he located?
He was located by our investigators
When did you guys get tipped off that it was possibly the accused?
over the weekend.
At what point did police realize that all these fires were connected?
Well, we work with our crime analysts through the series of these fires through June, and it's making those connections. They work with us to help us make those connections. And then we have a long conversation with the accused.
How helpful was CCTV in this investigation?
Very. Although, you know what, I'm going to temper that because I think there's an opportunity to reach the community here. CCTV footage is excellent, and we encourage our business community to invest in that. But I'm also going to encourage our business community to invest in lighting. When you have security cameras And if these incidents are happening overnight or in the early hours in the morning and it's dark outside and you haven't lit your business well, especially outside, sometimes that can be a hindrance to our ability to get a really good image of that suspect to identify them. So
obviously this will bring some relief to business owners and not the public. What do you want to say to the business owners and people who they say we threatened somebody else, obviously, and in some cases there's been fires, but threat of a fire.
Mhm.
Say that there's separate investigations, I guess. What do you want to say to them to do? What you're doing to bring that to a close like you've done this one?
well, this is a difficult question because I feel like I'm back to 3 weeks ago on Halloween when, I stood up here really wanting to be able to answer your questions. What I would say to those owners is that I think this arrest demonstrates that we are committed to resolving these investigations. That investigation is actively, and we've had contact with all those complainants and are working with them.
How common is it for one person to be charged with such a large string of fires?
I don't think it's typically uncommon with any crime, with mischief and whatnot. This happens to be this person's crime of choice, but I don't think it's uncommon to have a person do a string of fires.
At the Commonwealth fire, in particular, the CCD footage showed a man at a shopping cart. Is this guy possibly homeless or?
I can't speak to that.
No.
No.
Was he known to police or had any other convictions?
No.
Why were these specific locations targeted?
That speaks to his motive, and that forms part of our investigation. So I'm not in liberty to give that information currently.
Can you, I think I know the answer to this, but can you say if any mental health issues were at play here?
I don't know this individual, so I can't speak to that.
Is this a relief for the police service to have been able to lay charges as part of this investigation?
I can tell you it's a relief for me. No, it is. I think as we work through the months in the summer, this weighs really heavily, and rightly so. It gained a lot of media attention. It's a significant issue that needed to be highlighted, but our officers wear that. They read the news, they live in these communities, and it's very frustrating for them, including our Winnipeg paramedic fire investigators. It's the longer it goes, the more it weighs on them. So coming to a conclusion, I think, is exciting, but also a relief. And it's also not lost on us that we feel this is going to give the community a sense of a relief from probably what they've been feeling and experiencing through the summer.
Any message to arsonists out there, people who think this is a joke or, I think this is not as serious?
Well, I think we look at traditionally police work and homicide investigations and, sexual assaults and child abuse investigations. And, we look at something like he broke a window and that's a mischief, and those don't matter. It matters. And these arson investigations matter. These are significant investigations. And I think the message to an arsonist is that we're not going to give up. It may be challenging. It may take us some time to do this, but we don't give up.
You mentioned, sorry, the suspect was identified over the weekend. Is that correct? How was he identified?
I can't speak to that. I do, though, want to acknowledge, I speak heavily in regards to our investigative units that worked on this, but I do want to say that the success over the weekend is attributed to two General Patrol members who listened to their instincts.
I was going to ask you about
Yeah.
GP. Sorry, I was going to ask you about the GP members and how you mentioned their work was invaluable. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask you to
Yeah.
kind of elaborate a bit more on that.
No, I you know what, I think I get to be the commander of a criminal investigation bureau, and, with TV Dateline 48 hours, we get sensationalized, but I think it's important to remind the public the work that our frontline officers do, and we follow up from what they do. And it's very important. They are the key to our success, and we cannot forget our uniformed members in these investigations.
Were they aware by that point of like a description of a suspect and that kind of play into it at all? Anything like that where they were given information?
Well, we are always communicating. So we communicate, obviously we work with the fire investigators on their side, but internally within our police service on any investigation or anything that's happening within our service. There's communication between our divisions and CIB and General Patrol. So we have been communicating those messages out over the course of the summer. What those officers knew or didn't know at the time, I can't speak to.
I know you were asked sort of about rarity when it comes to things like this, but a case like this where you have one person responsible for essentially attacking constituency offices, several restaurants and bars, some kind of within the same area. This kind of spree, like, have you seen this before where you've had so many businesses and also constituency offices and a school division? The treatment center, targeted.
You sure you got that?
I know, well, maybe others, I don't know. But have you seen a case like this before? Where there's been so many locations.
You know, I think with arson, you know, we've had conversations with this, and you know, back in the day, probably when I was a newer person on our job, we would see prolific offenders that were known to us and would do a series. In my time in investigations, we haven't had something like this in a very long time.
Is it possible that this person may be allegedly responsible for other fires that have happened during this time frame or even prior to June 11th?
We're not closing the chapter. Like I said, this is an arrest that happened yesterday. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work with Manitoba Justice, securing judicial authorizations. There's a lot of evidence still to obtain and work through. So I'm not going to bookend it saying that that this is the end of it, but this is what we know right now.
Had he worked for any of these locations?
I can't answer that
previously, or
question.
had he ever attended the provincial treatment center?
I don't have that information.
And Crime Stoppers, you mentioned, you acknowledged the support from Crime Stoppers. Did tips to Crime Stoppers help in this situation?
That I can't speak to specifically, but I think it's very important to acknowledge Crime Stoppers. You've been the face of retail theft as well, and they have stepped up to the plate, assisting us with that. And arsons was no different. We can't thank our partnerships with Crime Stoppers enough.
And just kind of circling back to the motive, I know you can't get into it, but like, do police have a motive? Like, have you established why allegedly
Yes.
this person?
Yes, we have. He has cooperated with our investigators.
Was the manner of setting these fires the same like, or similar in all of these cases?
There's variations, but there was a pattern.
I noticed there's fewer break-in enters. Did he, I guess, not always break in before setting the fires?
That's correct. Some locations are just damaged. There's no fires at all. I want to be clear. Some locations there were fires, no break-ins or no damage. And in some instances, it was both.
Are you able to say which locations didn't have a fire?
I didn't record that for this purposes of this conference. I don't want to take away from our illustrious panel here. So if there's questions for, please let me know, and I can invite them up to the panel.
Just quickly, similar to what you asked and said, but are you confident this will bring some relief to the public?
Yes, I believe today's announcement of the arrest will bring relief to many Winnipeggers. And I want to thank again our police and fire teams for their work. You know, I'm thinking about my elected colleagues, Ministers Smith and Fontaine, and their staff, who, you know, I've spoken to them since the fires at their locations, and there's great concern. And these are people just trying to do their job. Jay Kilgore, you know, with his, you know, representing all the restaurants and food services folks, you know, in Winnipeg and across Manitoba. We're thinking about them. These restaurant owners make significant investments. They risk capital. They make investments to generate activity in our economy. They employ people. And, you know, I can imagine the conversations they've had with their staffs when we see, you know, restaurants being set on fire. So I believe this will bring relief to business owners, restaurant owners, elected officials. Certainly, I'm hoping Minister Smith and Fontaine feel some relief, as others should as well, and the broader public. I think this is a very important announcement today that should set the minds of many of the members of the public at ease. Not only that someone has been caught and charged, but more importantly, to show once again, as I said at the outset, this is the coordinated work of public safety that our police and fire are working on.
Are you worried at all that there seems to be like an environment in the city that there's more of these fires, or that the fires, this isn't just like a mattress fire or an electrical fire? Like, is there concerns that there's an environment in the city that people think this is loud or okay?
Certainly, I'm always concerned as mayor when there's criminal activity in the city, but our city is not unique. Our city is not alone. There's arsons across the country. Certainly, as Chief Schmidt has said, there's a lot of fires here in Winnipeg, and too many. And while he did mention as well, I appreciate that he mentioned, while our police and fire investigators are working on this spate of fires, we're also working on vacant and derelict buildings, and I believe soon we'll have something to talk about there as well, about the work we're doing to address the issues of vacant and derelict buildings as well. But just to reiterate, politically, administratively, City Winnipeg staff and our various departments are taking these matters very seriously, and through coordinated efforts with members of the public, all of our different departments, we're working to make Winnipeg safer.
We have enough resources in the city between the emergency services and city departments to tackle these issues.
Well, we just released our budget on Friday, and in that budget, it includes an increase in the number of firefighters, an increase in the number of police officers, and an increase in the number of paramedics as well. And so we are investing more in our emergency services resources.
Any more questions? Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.